Well, still playing Conquistador here in turn 4. Some serious changes, at least in monarch ratings. The English dropped down to a C, and the Portuguese down to a B. Spain is temporarily a B. Let's see if I can remember that, but I've got it worked into here. It doesn't really affect anything else, to tell you the truth. So it's just really the initiative rating, and it didn't affect the order in any significant manner there. The amount of money is really the key factor here with the English at the top money. Even though they're doubled, the amount of money that Spain and Portugal have is so low that they're simply unable, to be in the same competing ballpark, even with that ×4 multiplier. If somebody dropped down to a D, England or France, then they would be knocked out. It's time to do some planning. You can see some interesting things. The French lost all their colonists this turn from the supply of colonists drying up, and that's about it. I thought I had these halved or something. I don't know. Anyway, that's about all. Well, we've got a kind of interesting situation here. The English hired Vespucci, a Portuguese explorer, for $10. They paid the Portuguese $10 for the right to use them, so that they could land here in the Caribbean and start exploiting some of that gold. They wanted the area with the land because they wanted to actually create a Caribbean island. Unfortunately, the Spanish also moved here, and they've got a larger force. They also have some movement capability so that they can attack or do some other things. The English were just planning on landing here and sending the ship back immediately, which means they don't have any extra movement there. They could, of course, sail off, like I said, use some of the bounds that they were planning to return to sail to here, and then keep the ships off, in the New World. That's the way that I like to use the bounds that way, and I think it works pretty well. I think they'll end up doing that because they don't have a fair fight against the Spaniards. That puts them in the Caribbean, though. And what's kind of cool about being in the Caribbean for them is that they can mine that gold and actually prevent the Spaniards from fully controlling the gold in the Caribbean without actually coping with them. So it does open up some difficulties there. It is something of a collision course. Elsewhere, the Portuguese are making another shot at the Cape here. And the French, well, the French decided not to send an expedition out. Without the colonists going, hey, why pay to go? They're just going to continue trying to clean up the Atlantic coast and then expand from there. But without any colonists, they're just not that interested in shipping more stuff in. So the English indeed ran over to here. The Spanish landed here, went to here where they can pick up more gold. They'll be getting $30 worth of gold to deliver home. Here they'll only be pulling 15, assuming we don't see a depletion. I don't remember when you roll for depletion. I've been rolling after producing. It may actually be the other way around, that it could prevent production on secondary turns. We'll see how it falls out. The Portuguese made the Cape this time. That's 150 victory points. They lost Cabral doing so. They've still got Albuquerque here who can lead that back. But yeah, we're beginning to see some movement, the English getting themselves positioned, Spanish beginning to actually funnel stuff here. Now the Spanish have to be interested here too, because they're going to start pulling $75 a turn out of the Aztecs. They can't really pick that up yet, though. Yeah, they could have this turn, and it's kind of a risk for them not to have troops there, because if they start collecting up gold there, somebody will probably attack it. Well, the English risked bringing their ships home because on the 9 or more table, the only thing that really hurts them is a high roll. That would have sunk some ships. And those are ships they're paying interest on. They'd like to get the cash, so they're going to collect that. And that'll actually end up added to their ducats, of course, up there. The big reason, because they had that Portuguese captain on board. I'm not sure what the reasonable rule is with that, but they're only able to have him on board for this turn. So if they can't get him home, I don't know what it means. And so I kind of pushed the sailing home more, saying the Portuguese would have insisted on that. I don't know. Maybe they could come to some sort of agreement otherwise. The Portuguese return actually lost them their other admiral, so they really did want their admiral back. They're down to just one explorer, actually. The Spaniards brought their money home as well. They lost, I think, a ship on the deal. Not sure. Yeah, but they have enough gold left. And the Portuguese fleet, of course, I already mentioned, came back. Do have to worry here. I got a whole pile of troops here. There's a chance on the land attrition table all the way up there on the 5 level where they are. If they don't have a Conquistador there, they could lose everything. That's a painful risk, and they should only have 3 strength points there to make sure they don't lose the gold. They're going to have to move those out of there for now. None of the mines depleted. Everything's running. Everything's kind of pulling money in. There's still money kicking around here and 75 under there. So that's kind of a... That's an interesting situation. The Spanish have to get some of that money out of there so that they can defend any more money that occurs out there. Otherwise, someone may take that shot at them. I guess we're pretty much done. I got to handle the maintenance. Money-wise, no big change so far. Well, after the random events, we ended up going to the naval actions, and you can see what's got placed. The English did not place anywhere, and they were perhaps the people most interested maybe in launching an attack on the Aztecs. The people most capable of doing it would be the Portuguese in terms of, hey, at least they have an explorer. Actually, the French do too. French held off. They want to expand more into the area that they've kind of started carving out as their sphere of influence instead of launching an attack on... Well, the French would have been the best because they have the money, they have the explorer. They could have landed troops and started a war in the Aztec Empire. The problem with that? Well, who knows what would happen. And what did happen is the Spanish launched quite a significant force to land there to help control it and to help expand northward, maybe be able to get some of those gold mines, etc. For the English, they would have to do a port attack. That's kind of risky. If a galleon was built, which was a possibility, the Spaniards considered using that because that could haul all that gold, the 150 all at once. The reason they didn't do that is they want to wait a turn. They need more gold. They don't feel like they have enough. They need to transport some of this stuff, especially the conquistadors, to get into those troops to make it so that they can't lose them all as easily. However that works out. They actually hauled a whole bunch of conquistadors. They kept Ponce de Leon here in case they want to send, and Magellan, in case they want to send Magellan on some kind of exciting trip. He's not going around the world, not without the rudder, unless they get the random event where they steal the rudder from the Portuguese. They're not going to do it. The Portuguese don't have the money to do it. It costs like 60 ducats to take a shot at it. Now the chance is pretty good. You just have to survive the naval attrition, what, 2 rolls on that? But it's the 60 bucks in transport fees that's painful. Now, of course, either of those 2 rolls coming up with 6, and you're doomed. But it's a lot of points. It's 175 points instead of the 150 additional, in addition to the 150 that the Portuguese got for discovering the Pacific. But they're just not in a position to risk that. In fact, they're down to only 20, about 30 ducats for landing in Panama, trying to get this gold mine running. They've got their troops here. Once they clear Rio de Plata, they can move up to Brazil. But I don't think that's cleared yet. I think they only got that to 1. Now they're sending some more troops down to fight in Panama, try to get the gold there operating. Gold is really, really valuable towards fueling the early stage of the game, where resources don't count. Later on, farming's going to work pretty well. But you can't do farming when you can't even prepare for that when you've got like no money left. You've got to try to push your way through. And Spain and Portugal are in this case where, okay, they bet big and they've got to drag the treasures that they found back. The English, well, they had the ships that they could have sent out to grab the gold they're liable to produce here. But they'd rather be a turn behind or something. And just kind of, they don't want to be too far behind, because if gold starts piling up there, that becomes a real target. It becomes worth just doing a naval invasion and taking it. Alright, I guess we're on to the land stuff now. Nah, I'm sorry, we're actually up to the hemispheric movement and rolling attrition. But there's probably not a lot of excitement going on there. Well, all the money made it back home or whatever. All the ships made it back home. In the Spanish case, the money came home. They lost a ship. I lied. How about that? They had $100 for these big gold carracks heading back. One of them went down. They only pulled 75, and it still puts them back into more solid ground where they can probably afford the galleon fleet to sail in, pick stuff up here. They have this mine still going. This one got depleted this turn. No money made. And I don't know what happened. Why the English didn't produce. I think I must have forgotten to roll for them, so. Oh, no, they did produce. They didn't pick up. That's the special thing. Okay. So yeah, there's still $50 sitting there. Plus next turn maybe another 75. Do I need to buy the galleon? That would be probably worth more than, say, buying 3 or 4 more of these, which would be a little bit cheaper, but not as safe as using the galleon fleet. The galleon fleet's immune to attrition damage. It's immune to combat. It's very, very capable of hauling all that gold, and especially important if I'm going to hit 2 spaces. Land here, do a pickup, then move to there in hemispheric, and then sail back. That would be the way to haul the maximum money, and it can haul unlimited gold. So that's probably the safest way when I'm going to take a 25% hit every now and then on a bad die roll. But it is an expensive thing, and it's got an expensive maintenance as well. Let's see, that's the equivalent of 5 carracks. 5 carracks could carry 125 gold, which is probably about where I'd be. But here it's doing it without the attrition. I still got to pay maintenance. That's going to decrease those values significantly. And indeed it did. $51 in maintenance. Oh shit, I forgot to pay for the fleets. That was just ground maintenance. Coming back after I pay for those fleets. So then make that 57 for Spain. So they lost most of their money that they brought back, right? They got $75. 57 of it went into their maintenance costs. Now some of that, of course, was paid for by some of these guys, but they didn't bring in much. 3, 6, 10, $15. Portugal, on the other hand, oh, poor Portugal. They're down to 2 ducats. They're really hosed. Had they found the gold mine here, they'd have been pulling 25 back. That would have helped a little bit. But they're at the point where they're essentially bankrupt. They're losing money. This turn is an R1 turn coming up. And they are not going to be able to make it. They're going to have to start dismantling their army. They have Rio de Plata under control from the natives. But of course, somebody could go invade it if they don't keep an army there. And that's kind of the problem. Whatever they're producing cash-wise is just paying for the colonists right now. They can't afford anything else. They can't send a ship anywhere. If they could sell, rent Vespucci, maybe that'll help. Now, they don't just have $2 though. They will get their taxation for the turn. That may allow them to do something. But if it doesn't, if they can't fix this situation, they're in really, really dire circumstances. England, of course, is in very good circumstances because they didn't do anything. They got $300 in the bank, and that's lovely. France, not so good. They had, I think, an expensive foreign war this turn, either them or Spain. But they are expanding and are very happy with the situation that they have in North America. That's valuable. They're set up. Once they take the East Coast, they took 1 point off of it. To move into the Great Lakes, there's a discovery bonus for that. Conquering that, well, that's a particularly nice place to live, as good as the Atlantic coastline, really. So their expansion westward, there's also a treasure possibly there, and a little bit of gold if they can reach out there. But there's the danger of Spain in that. This really does become a how well can you manage your engine. It's almost like a Euro in that sense, because there is very little competition in here early on. Now later in the game, when somebody starts taking the lead, there is the possibility for people to work together to bring them down. And it's actually quite potent unless they are so far ahead. We'll load this one up and see what happens on the next one.